This is a Geek Leader podcast, and I'm your host, John Rauda. This show is all about helping us grow as leaders, become better technologists, and improve our lives both at work and at home. I hope you enjoy the show and learn a lot. Welcome to a Geek Leader podcast. I'm your host, John Rauda. And if you could, please do me a favor and take a moment and leave a rating and review in whatever podcast player you're listening to this on, whether it's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, doesn't matter. I would greatly appreciate it. And that feedback really helps get other listeners to the show. Also, if you're not subscribed, go ahead and subscribe so you don't miss an episode. And if you feel so inclined, you can go to geekleader.com/tip and donate to the show. Thanks so much. All right, Geek Leaders, today I'm honored to have Emily Coleman on the show. She is the co-founder of HAI Analytics, which is a company that helps higher ed institutes, visualize and see data when it comes to, prospective enrollment and things like that. So helps them make decisions better, which is awesome. Anyway, with all that being said, Emily, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
If you don't mind, just tell the audience a little bit about your background, how you got into the higher education space and data, and what is it that you do?
Sure. So I started out working in higher ed 23 years ago. I had finished a PhD in psychology and statistics, and basically I was looking for a job. I didn't want to go into academia. So through a friend of a friend, I found this job at Syracuse University in the enrollment management office. I had never heard of enrollment management, which is basically, bringing admissions and financial aid together. They wanted someone who could build predictive models for retention, for yields, admit to enroll yield. And they didn't have anyone doing that. So they created a position and I started there. And I really didn't think, I didn't have any intentions of staying in the field for 23 years, but I loved it. I loved applying my skill set in a university setting and being on a campus. I eventually was sort of more in the leadership team there, setting policies. So I loved that. I left there because we moved. My husband's job moved us. And so I started working at McGuire Associates, which is another higher ed consulting company. I was there for 5 years. We did a lot of predictive modeling, and financial aid optimization was the main thing. So helping schools spend their financial aid dollars efficiently and effectively to meet their goals. After 5 years there, my co-founder and I decided to start HAI, and we did that in 2018. And we had a couple of reasons for wanting to do that. We kind of saw some, a hole in the market that we could perhaps fill, and what we wanted to do. So first, HAI stands for Human and Artificial Intelligence. So we were seeing a lot of people come out of their undergrad degrees with very strong statistical skills. They could build very complex AI models. But there was also kind of this belief that takes away the thinking part. You just throw the data in and then it will tell you what factors are significant. And we knew from our experience that is dangerous, that you need to have that human element there. And we also wanted to provide what we do in a transparent way. So there are other companies that do what we do, and they don't want to sort of let clients see under the hood. And we thought that is unnecessary. So we really partner with the institutions that we work with. We'll give them the models, we'll show them everything that we're doing. And if that means that they learn how to do it themselves and don't need us anymore, we're fine with that. We feel like that's a good outcome, helping schools not be completely reliant on vendors. So less than 2 weeks ago, HAI was acquired by Encora. Encora is another higher ed data company, a lot of data analytics, data visualization, and we're really excited to be part of Encora. I am the vice president of modeling services. We're still doing the same kind of work, but we have a bigger team, and it's a good move for us. They have a lot of products that look at student recruitment sort of higher up of the admissions funnel than we do. So when we bring that together with our yield modeling, it creates something that is really strong. So that's my very long background.
No, that's great. That's great. Tell me a little bit about how, like, if how colleges use this information and what all goes into like the visualization and the benefits that they get out of using these tools.
So colleges, the majority of colleges are heavily dependent on tuition as their main source of revenue. And so they sort of have to set price strategically. And the way that this has developed in the higher ed space is that we have kind of high price, high discount models. So, the cost of college, the sticker price has gone up quite a bit over the past 20 years. And what colleges have done is increase the amount that they're discounting that tuition. So many colleges, no one's really paying the full sticker price. They need to use their financial aid dollars wisely to meet their goals because, of course, it's a limited pot. No one has unlimited supply of money. They want to bring in students who, fit the profile of what they're looking for. Most colleges are trying to shape their class with students that will be successful at the institution. And they want to make sure that they're setting up financial aid policies that helps the students get in the door, but then also helps them stay and be successful. So that's what we do for them. We build statistical models. We look at all of the factors that are predictive of admit to enroll yield and first to second year retention. One of the factors we look at is net cost. So their cost after financial aid. And we determine, what is the effect of financial aid dollars, which we then can simulate changes to that to show them, projected outcomes. This is what sort of could happen if you used your financial aid dollars in this way. So we partner closely with them. We're really passionate about data visualization and regular tracking of data. We know that no statistical model is perfect. And things change outside of the model that we can't control. So we build, strong models and use those to project throughout the cycle. But then we also track data very closely so that if we see, okay, we don't have as many admits as we had planned when we built this model, then we need to make adjustments along the way. So we're working with our clients throughout the cycle, monitoring their progress toward goal, and making adjustments when necessary.
Hmm. So what do you mean by data visualization? Do you mean like dashboards and charts, or can you explain that
Yeah.
a little bit more?
Yeah. I mean dashboard. So we have a dashboard that is built in Tableau. It's interactive. It has different tabs. So there's kind of a high level overview where we're just looking at admits and enrolls and some demographics, some financials, just kind of a quick glance at where things stand. We're always comparing to the prior two cycles and we're doing year to date comparisons. So we're always looking at where were we a year ago on this date. And then we get into a lot more detail where we're looking at numbers of students in particular groups of interest, perhaps, geographic groups or different majors or colleges. Um, and we are projecting. So part of the dashboard has the predictive model built into it so that throughout the course of the cycle, when when the dashboard gets updated with new data, the projection model runs and then gives a projection of where we think things will end. And we kind of compare that to goal and figure out if adjustments need to be made. So there are a lot of different tabs. As I said, it's interactive. They can drill down on very specific populations. If you want, males from New York or whatever the specific population is, they can kind of drill down, and we can do that as well. And that helps us to make sure that things look the way we assumed they would, and just make changes if we need to.
So when you're looking through the data or building the dashboards and your customers are kind of looking at the data, are there anything that are they usually surprised by some of the information and some of the analytics that they're seeing, or is it kind of on par with what they're expecting, or what is the differences there?
It varies. So I think, in many ways, it confirms what they would expect, but it seems like there are always sort of little discoveries to be made, particularly with the, drilling down on specific populations. So you may see that, students from Wisconsin are not enrolling at the same rate than they did in previous years. And that's helpful knowledge. But if you can drill down on that and find, well, it's a very specific type of student who's not yielding, then, that allows us to have a more precise reaction to that, or put a plan in place that would deal with that. So it is definitely a mixture, I think, of seeing what they already know is the case, but then also being able to sort of discover the nuances in the data.
Yeah, so basically you can use that information to kind of figure out if you need to target your recruitment in a different way, or use some of the financial aid dollars in a different method to
Yeah.
get the target that you're looking for.
Yeah, exactly. And the models, so when they run, each student in the data set gets a predicted probability of enrolling or retaining whatever it is that we're measuring. And those scores can be delivered to the institution so they can target their outreach and make sure they're using their limited resources wisely. So perhaps you're going to do more outreach with kind of the fence sitters than you are with the students who are extremely likely to enroll or extremely unlikely to enroll. So that's another kind of thing that they can do with the models.
Hmm. So basically you have, analytics that show how likely people will enroll based off of the past enrollments. Do you have any information about how well they'll do after they enroll? Like,
Yes. So we do. We have, as kind of a basic part of the financial aid optimization, we're always looking at first to second year retention. And we're looking at sort of the cumulative effect over 2 years. So colleges, like, every business, they don't want to overspend. They don't want to spend more than they need to. Everybody's sort of looking to decrease that discount rate. But by looking over 2 years, we often see that a strategy that's more generous in the first year will net more over 2 years, in terms of revenue, in terms of retention, because it's improving retention. So, that really helps to have a little bit of a longer term view. Um, and we build, kind of full-blown retention models as well, where we're looking at 4 to 6 year graduation rates. We're predicting outcomes. That isn't always a standard part of the financial aid optimization, but is something that we do as well.
yeah, it seems like that'd be very helpful.
Mhm.
But also knowing how long a student would typically be enrolled should impact that financial model as well, right?
Yes, yes. Yep, definitely. Yeah, and it's always less expensive to keep a student than it is to
Mm.
recruit a new one. So, and I'm saying all of this in terms of revenue, and of course there are many other things that colleges care about, and revenue may not even be at the top of the list. But just in terms of econometric modeling, yeah, it makes sense to have your students succeed.
Yeah, absolutely. And also when you look at like, I know a lot of people, don't want to think about like dollars and cents when it comes to colleges and education. They want to think about the students and, the benefit. But behind every one of those, metrics is a life, is a person. So when you have to do one thing, and the same thing like with nonprofits, people are like, oh, we don't want to talk about the dollars, we're talking about the lives being impacted. Well,
Mhm.
every metric is a life, and you have to think about it that way and be able to relate it. And I think that's a good way to talk about it. Um,
Definitely.
can you talk a little bit about things that you may have been doing? Because uh, a woman entrepreneur in a tech space in a data space, it's kind of an unusual thing. Tell me a little bit about your path there and how you have been able to navigate that.
Um, Sure. So, I mean, my path here, I tell people that when I interviewed for the job I had at my prior company, the owner of the company, the founder of the company, asked where I saw myself in 5 years. And I said, I'm really not the type of person who makes 5-year plans. I sort of am looking at where do I want to be right now? I said, and so he said, well, he kind of pressed me on it. Well, do you want to be working at a university? Do you want to be a college president? Do you want to start a business? And I said, the only thing that I know for sure is I do not want to start a business. And then 5 years later, there I was starting a business. And again, it was because we saw an opportunity to do things a little bit differently. We really were heavily service based, but we had to develop technologies in order to, best serve our clients and work with them. Um, so I would love to say I had this grand plan that, I would be an ed tech founder and this is exactly what would happen. But it was kind of one step at a time. And, we got to this place where the work that we wanted to do really was speaking to people. And, we were successful. And then with the acquisition, we kind of found a company that has the same values as us. They're really looking to make the best matches between students and colleges. So again, we weren't seeking an acquisition. That was something that just sort of happened naturally as we were talking to people about a potential partnership. So I hate to say that, everything that's ever happened is kind of accidental, but it sometimes feels that way. I mean, I've tried to work hard and figure out what the next step is and just kind of take things one step at a time.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. It's very interesting, the way life kind of comes at you, right?
Yes. Yes. For sure.
Um, Tell me a little bit about like your passion for increasing, representation in STEM and helping women entrepreneurs.
Yeah. So, in terms of the STEM piece, um, we know that women are underrepresented in sciences, technology, and math. And because I had a social science background, that was something that it was really important to me to show younger women that, what they can achieve and not to let any sort of fears or biases against them work against them. So when I started at Syracuse, I did a lot of things with, students there, worked with groups and tried to just kind of help young women develop that confidence to go into, a STEM field. And then when we started HAI and I realized that, um, in terms of like venture capital funds, the tiniest percentage goes to female founders. And so that made me, and I started a company and we were doing well. So I really love to try to help other women do the same thing. I do that through the alumni network at my school, just generally through LinkedIn. I'm always happy to talk to women who are thinking about starting a business. When we started HAI, we spoke to someone who had started a tech company that's now very successful, a woman. So I try to sort of pay that forward and offer that to anybody who's, questioning it and wanting some advice or just some encouragement.
That's awesome. And how can people like if they want to learn more, they're interested, and how can they reach out to you and maybe have those conversations and get things going?
The Yeah, the best way to get me is probably on LinkedIn. They
Mhm.
can find me there and message me there. People are welcome to email me at emily.coleman@incora.org. But um, if they just go to my LinkedIn, they'll find, how to get in touch with me. And I'm happy to have some conversations.
Awesome. And I'll link those in the show notes too at geekleader.com so people can go there and click through. Emily, thanks so much for coming on the show and talking to us and sharing this information with us and helping us out. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, John. Thanks for having me.
Hope you enjoyed the show. Please go to geekleader.com to learn more about what this guest is up to, click on their links, and connect with them online. I would also greatly appreciate it if you could leave me a rating and review in Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to the show. And make sure you've subscribed if you haven't already. And if you feel so inclined, you can leave me a tip by going to geekleader.com/tip.